Hello, welcome to the Mixed Reviews. I'm Gavin. I cracked on that.
Gavin, you are still going through puberty and it's fine.
It has been a long 33 years.
Finally.
I'm going to be a man, Papa. That's a weird way to begin this episode, isn't it?
Gavin, what something to say to us?
But it's very early in the morning.
It is very early in the morning.
It's a Saturday.
Ooh.
Yeah, exactly. And we are here. I'm Gavin.
I'm Louie.
And we're here to talk today about our very special topic.
Yeah.
Salma Hayek.
Salma Hayek is our topic today.
She is.
And I'm so excited.
But first, I did want to get out of the way because we forgot to do it last week up front. Should we revisit some old business?
Yes, old business. So last episode was Mr. Michael Fassbender.
Now, I don't know if you guys have noticed, we're really doing our best to do very few white men.
Yes, that's a good active thing.
Just because they're everywhere and they get everything,
and they're the worst.
But Michael Fassbender was a special case. I feel like
he was.
He's a real as Dan recently put it. He was the last thing invented by... Oh, I wish I could remember who he said.
I get it right.
Yeah, somebody invented him specifically for the male gaze. Not for the female gaze. It was he's crafted in a lab for the male gaze.
It was like Zac Efron and then Michael Fassbender.
Michael Fassbender. And everybody was like, he's cool.
Yeah, he's cool. I'll take it. It's like also him and Tom Hardy. I feel like in the same realm of like...
Tom Hardy's like if you've ever seen the movie Twins and there's like the one twin who gets all the good traits and the one twin who gets like all the bad traits.
Right.
Physically, Tom Hardy's fine, but like he's the evil twin.
Clearly. right. But he has also, he's like if you're like into like dirtier, nastier things.
Yes, exactly.
I feel like Fassbender is like the nicer angel.
But we took a poll, as we do with all of our subjects.
Right.
And I'm very disappointed in the results, but I will let you get to the results, Louie.
Okay. So we chose four movies that I thought were like representative. Maybe we missed one or two or a lot, whatever. So in our poll, we got Hunger came in at 14%, Steve Jobs came in 13%, Frank came very close with a 33%, and 12 Years a Slave came out on top with 40%.
And this was a total of 30 votes. Thank you for the one person who pushed Hunger into the 14% over Steve fucking Jobs.
Yikes. Who voted for Steve Jobs?
I do not know, but it must have been multiple people if you do the math.
I'm never going to do the math.
Frank deserves its spot, but I do want to say I still think most of you have not seen Hunger, and you should go out and see Hunger. If you go out to your theater. It's been playing there since 2011.
Gavin's like really salty about the results.
I'm salty, but I'm very happy for you that you finally won one. 12 Years a Slave.
What kind of shade? I finally found like one, and it was like the most that Oscar nominated Best Picture. Wow.
So I'm just going to take a moment to close the library.
The library is closed. Thank you, Gavin.
And I think we should move right along into our rewind.
I took notes on Miss Salma Hayek. I had so much fun these past 2 weeks.
Me too.
Like watching her movies and reading up on her. So a quick bio. For her, she was born in September 2nd, 1966. She is a healthy 50 years old right now.
She is, and stunning.
Stunning. She was born in the, I'm going to try and pronounce this town, and I'm a bad Mexican, I guess. It's Coatzacoalcos. I should have just said Veracruz, because that's easier to say. That's where she was born.
Is that the same town that she's from in Beatriz at Dinner?
No.
Okay.
No, in Beatriz at Dinner, she's like from Xochipilco or something like that.
Yes, yeah.
That one I can like say easier because this one I could not say at all. Her mom was an opera singer and her dad was an oil executive who also ran for mayor once of their hometown. So she was born into a pretty wealthy, good, well-to-do family. Her father is Mexican of Lebanese descent, and she has stated before that she considers herself half Spanish and half Lebanese Mexican. So that's kind of cool. And you'll see that she plays a couple of like Middle Eastern roles in a couple movies.
I was not expecting her to show up as an Iranian Jew at some point.
Right. And putting on that accent, she was like, you know what? Here I am.
Yeah.
She, as a child, she was sent to study in Louisiana. And then she came back to Mexico City to study at university there. Her first acting gig was starring in the title role of Teresa in a 1989 telenovela. She was 23 years old, and that made her a star in Mexico.
I love listening to her talk about that period, too, about, like, the sort of, because we don't have, like, telenovelas, the closest thing we have in America, as most people know, are kind of soap operas,
right.
but not necessarily because telenovelas are so much bigger and we don't have that experience. And so it's basically like she was like rabid fans. Like she was like the Beatles of TV.
Yeah.
I was an overnight success in Mexico. I got a show that, it wasn't like a primetime show, and like we had 61 points of rating, and they moved it up to prime time, and it was my first job, actually, kind of. It was my second job, but so it happened really fast. But what I really wanted to be was a good actress. So I went back to theater, and I did a play by Alan Ayckbourn, which was an ensemble piece. So I wasn't the star of it, and it was a legitimate, comedy. And I got like one of the best directors, most respected directors to direct me. And the day the thing opened, and I surrounded myself with like really good actors, but that were very popular also. They had cards that would say, "I love you, Teresa," which was the name of my show. And they're like, and we had people sitting on the aisles. It was like a huge success, but it was not about my work. I became a persona. I knew that if I had any talent, this was going to kill it. I started all over again. I went to school. I took 2 years to learn English, to improve in my craft, to settle down, get my feet back on earth, and decide what I wanted to do next. And what I wanted to do next was to work here, because what I always wanted to do was to do films. I was crazy about films ever since I was a little girl.
And then if you can imagine being that young, like kind of hustling, and you have did you see like the opening clip of like the novela? Like, she's like, diamonds.
Yes.
And it's like the hugest hair. It's amazing. Like, do yourself a favor and just type that in.
Yeah, Google that.
Teresa, Salma Hayek opening, and it's amazing. Her first movie was El Callejón de Milagros, also known as Miracle Alley, also known as
Medoc Alley.
It came out in 1984, and she was nominated for an Ariel, which is a Mexican Oscar. That movie also is the most nominated Mexican film of all time.
Yeah.
So casual. She moved to Hollywood in 1991, actually, and faced a lot of challenges as far as, her English and all that. But she met Robert Rodriguez, and he began putting her in her movies, like Desperado was our first, I think.
She did this one really strange. There was a series of TV movies Showtime did. Sorry, not to interrupt. That was a bunch of remakes of a bunch of 1950s films, but remade to be edgier and more Showtimey.
Ooh.
And she did this movie also in 1994 called Road Racers, where it's her and David Arquette. And yeah, I know it's very strange.
Megastar David Arquette.
And there's this adorable scene where they go roller skating. But yeah, that movie's on Netflix, and a bunch of those, I think there's 4 of them, they're on Netflix, and they're kind of interesting to watch.
Really?
Yeah, you get the sense that like it's very 90s Showtime, but like they're all set in the 50s, but it's like 50s with sex and swearing.
Ooh, Salma Hayek.
Julie's here.
Yeah, so steady. Ain't that something?
Coincidence?
I'm sorry, Donna.
Dude, I thought you were taking me roller skating tonight.
We are roller skating.
Yeah, so Robert Rodriguez kind of like launched her American career with Desperado from Dusk Until Dawn. And in the 90s, she worked pretty steadily. She did Fools Rush In, Dogma, Wild Wild West, to name a few.
54,
which I just couldn't get through because of like horrible internet things.
The original version, the theatrical version is a piece of shit. But I've heard the director's cut is really good, and I didn't get a chance to watch it for this.
I mean, I have heard Ryan Phillippe is super hot, always and forever, so don't care either way.
Has he stopped texting you?
I mean, he's like really bothersome. I know why Reese just kicked him to the curb. In 2000, Selma founded her own production company called Ventana Rosa. In 2002 is when she released her breakthrough performance in Frida. That's kind of like...
That's like your signature role.
Yeah, she catapulted into the A-list. Just kind of fun facts. She has 2 Emmys. One Daytime Emmy for a children's movie she made called The Maldonado Miracle. And also for a guest role in Ugly Betty, a show that she produced.
Exactly.
She's married to Francis Henri Pinot.
Yeah, people were real jealous of that on the internet.
She, who is the most casual French billionaire.
Yeah,
he owns...
people seem to be very angry she's married to a billionaire. I'm sorry.
Do not buy.
Buy, exactly.
Like, do not care.
Like, do not care.
She's living her fantasy.
Exactly. Like, I'm so angry at you for landing a billionaire husband.
Yeah, he owns, like, the brand that owns Gucci, YSL, Stella McCartney. He has a casual soccer team in France. She's getting all the checks. She's living her best self.
She owns all the animals.
Yes, all the animals. Like, I love that.
We were up to 30 animals. I swore no more. And I was there, and a little puppy who was abandoned and was going to die. I won't tell you the sad story because it's a comedic show, and I'll start crying. He came to me, and I couldn't help it, and I picked him up. And his name is Ochoa, after the goalie of the soccer team in Mexico. It was a World Cup. And I took him, and then I was terrified. How am I going to explain this to my husband? I promised. And so I came up with this brilliant idea to pretend that I was having an affair. And then, no, with somebody, to make him think I was having an affair. And at the end, I would say, no, it's not an affair. I picked up a dog, and then he would feel better. Then I picked up a dog.
This is clever. It's good plan.
So I left him a message. You must call me at this time. We need to talk. It's very important. And I never do that. And this time, okay, what happened? And I said, listen, I feel so terrible. I don't know how to say this to you. And I know this is not going to go down well. And I'm really nervous. And please have mercy on me. Have patience. Be understanding. It's been so stressful. And I'm so tired. And I was so lonely here for so many days. And you do crazy things when you're in this state. And he said to me, oh, please don't tell me you picked up another dog.
Like, one of the things I love about Selma is you can just sense she's such a personable human being.
Yes.
And so, like, I can just imagine her just, like, globe-trotting, meeting every which person ever, and just, like, charming the pants off of them. And I'm into it.
Yeah. I'm really happy we picked her as a subject, even though she does have a huge filmography. And I must admit, like, for 2 weeks, like, man, this was...
It was. Yeah. I was like, oh my god, I had a lot of shit to watch.
Absolutely. So, why don't we move into our picks?
Okay. So, Gavin, what's your 1-star review for Salma Hayek?
So, there were a lot of them. And this is not her fault. Right. One of the things we try and do on this podcast is make sure that when we're focusing on a subject, we're focusing on them. And so I try my best. I don't want to speak for you, but I try my best to not go after a film if a film is particularly bad and, like, focus on the performance. If I was to go after the film, I would have picked Everly. Everly is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
We can talk about that later.
Right.
But I think if I have to pick a 1-star movie that she's not particularly great in, and I don't want to give her 100% the blame, because I'll be honest, there's a lot of bad movies that she's in, but she's always good. She's always good. She's one of the most consistent people we've done so far. Like, there never feels like a movie in which she's trying to cash a check. But there's this little film that she made in the early 2000s. In fact, it's 2000, and it's called Time Code. And it's a film that takes place, it's 4 screens, all at the same time, and it's a lot of actors. It was all shot in 1 take each. Each camera's 1 take, and for an hour and a half, or hour 40 minutes, which is a really long time to keep a consistent take. It was shot on consumer cameras, so it looks like like anybody could have shot it.
Right.
And like I mentioned, all the performances are improv except for like specific points they had.
This movie sounds fucking crazy already. You're like 4 screens, shitty cameras, 1 take.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So she plays an actress named Rose, who's in a lesbian relationship with Janine Triplehorn, but gasp, she's not just dating Janine Triplehorn, she's also cheating on her with Stellan Skarsgård,
Dun, dun, dun.
who's a drunk film executive who also has a drug addiction. But this movie literally has everyone in it, like Steven Weber's in it, and I'm blanking on everybody now. Saffron Burrows and
so big names, lots of big names.
Well, these are all people who were famous in the early 2000s, and like they're all sort of giving their all. I think the problem with the film, and the reason why Salma Hayek's not particularly good, is she wasn't really given a character. They're like, you're a bisexual actress who's a jerk. And that's it. That's all they gave her to build on. And there's several parts in the movie where you can tell that she's like stalling because they're sort of waiting for the next thing to happen.
Oh, okay.
And maybe it's just because of her training or whatever. Just improv doesn't seem to be her thing.
Right.
You're an actress?
Yeah.
Are you here for the audition?
Mm-hmm.
You're pretty.
You're pretty.
No, you're like really pretty.
No, you're beautiful.
You think so?
Yes.
Did you go in already?
Yeah.
Was it fun?
Mm-hmm. You going in?
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, good luck.
Yeah, you too.
You have an agent?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you're really pretty. I'm sure you'll be a star one day.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
It's weird to watch her struggle so much. Apparently, they shot the movie 4 or 5 times, and the directive the director gave them is they had to wear a completely different outfit. That way, they knew that there could never be any editing between the different versions of the film. So there's definitely other versions of this out there but she's just not good. She's just struggling. It's like watching her struggle, and I think that's really tough when she's supposed to be playing this actress who's not necessarily sure of herself, so you get that, and she's also keeping secrets, but, like, none of that comes through. And I really blame the director, Mike Figgis, of that. And apparently he went on to do another film very similar with her called Hotel that I could find hide nor hair of. Like, I searched and I searched for this movie.
You're like, this movie is a myth.
Yeah, and I wanted to watch all new movies and not really go back and look at the ones I'd already seen because I feel like my opinion is already sort of cemented of those things like Wild Wild West,
right?
The Desperado films, and Frida and whatnot. So, but Time Code's the one film I revisited because I remember really liking it as a kid, and I think I just liked the experiment. Yeah, I think I just literally liked the experiment of 4 screens simultaneously and sort of having to choose what to,
your adventure.
Exactly. So whether I'm watching like Glenn Heady as a psychiatrist or like Danny Houston as a security guard, and focusing on them, but hey, yeah, it's a mess. It's a messy experiment, and she's not very good in it. And she's basically the star.
Yeah.
Even though you have so many different things to focus on, she's basically like the main storyline.
I've noticed that's a common theme, like with these like kind of tinier movies. Everyone's like, let's just put Salma's name on it and like put her like naked on the cover. And, we can sell this movie and she's in it for like a minute or whatever. Or, like,
she plays a lot of girlfriends too.
So many girlfriends.
So many girlfriends. But yeah, that's my 1-star review. I actually could talk more at length on that, but I feel like I hit the points. So
great.
Louie, what's your 1-star review?
It's funny because mine for sure is Everly.
Yes. Good. I was hoping it would be. I think she gives a good performance though. But
here's the thing. I think her career has been, kind of riddled with roles of like being, she is like the proto sexy Latina, like all in the American conscious of like, and we have, now, Eva Longoria and, oh my God, I'm blanking out, Penelope Cruz, and there's lots of like other, Latin actresses who have kind of come up through the same vein as her. And not that like they're all terribly similar, but they've had to play the same like role. Yeah. They have to play the same game of like, well, of course I could play sexy Latina, like
right, exactly.
And
ooh, I'm so exotic, even though I'm from a country that's like
literally hello, right?
Yeah,
there.
Exactly. Our neighbor.
Yeah. And I think she was like the first one to enter like the American mainstream of doing that in the modern age, I guess I'd say.
Absolutely.
And this movie is
sort
like
of modern Ida Lupino, if you will.
yes, I've never heard of. This movie like exemplifies all of those things, where it's based. So Everly is a story about a woman who is captured and is a sex slave for like 4 years.
Yeah.
For 4 years, and she has to like escape this hotel, and try to save her mother and child. Essentially, it all takes place in the hotel, like this room.
You betrayed me. You will die in that room tonight. My men are already there.
What are you going to do?
I have a plan. Mom, you need to see me so I can give you enough money for you to start a new life.
You're not going to make it.
I'm not gonna die tonight.
And it's really gory, and it's fucking awful. It's such a I've never seen a movie that be so full of itself and make its star go through so many things. She's like soaking in blood, like wearing a little negligee. There's like notes of Kill Bill. Like,
that's exactly. I wrote down when I was watching. I was like, Americans shouldn't make Korean revenge dramas, especially if their only endpoint is Quentin Tarantino.
Right. Yeah. I was like, oh, this person thinks that they're trying to make some, remember Kill Bill?
Yeah. Because it starts off, all the assassins, this is a 2014 movie, so this is not an old movie, by the way. And it was direct to, iTunes. It wasn't even in...
It was direct to the garbage can.
Yes, exactly. And, all the... it starts off with, the assassins are all Asian men in suits, but it gets progressively more ridiculous. It's women dressed as cheerleaders.
Yeah, so it's the overlord guy, he, tells all the other prostitutes or, sex workers, if you kill her, I'll pay you money. And so, literally an army of women wearing ridiculous, sex things, sexy stuff.
I feel like this is a mean judgment on the director. I feel like he's never had sex before.
True, yeah. That man does not know what sex is, actually. And it's funny, so Selma actually gave an interview to The Guardian a while ago, and it was, interesting because she talks a lot about feminism and what that means to her, because she has, kind of interesting thoughts on that. But she even says at the very end of it, the interview is mostly about the Prophet. And at the end, she's like, oh, I have all these other things coming out also. She's like, there's Everly, but she's like, but I don't want to talk about it. I wish that movie would go away. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I was reading up more on that movie. And so first of all, that movie was on the blacklist, whatever.
Yeah, in 2010.
And I realized, I thought the blacklist meant they were good.
You know what? The fallacy of the blacklist, by the way, if you in the audience don't know what the blacklist is, every year there's a list that comes out of the best, quote unquote, best unproduced screenplays in Hollywood. And let me tell you, in the last couple of years, all the movies that have been produced off the blacklist have been fucking awful.
Yeah.
So it's a huge fallacy.
It's bizarre though, because I remember when the emergence of this list came out, everyone was like, "Ooh my god, you got to produce these. These are hot properties." And then I saw this, and I was like, "Dina, you're a liar." Also, it was supposed to originally star Kate Hudson.
Yeah, she was attached in 2012
as she was going to take a turn to more action-y roles.
Yeah,
and I don't know why she left the project, but.
Best move you've made in the last 10 years, Kate Hudson.
Right. Kate Hudson was like, nope, bye.
It was so good to see her in that movie with Amy Schumer, though. That's her mom.
Snatched. This movie is really bad. It plays into all the awful stereotypes and things that I feel like Selma has had to work so hard to get away from. Yeah. And maybe that's what she thought she was going to do. Maybe she thought this is a really gritty action role. But literally the camera just lingers on her the entire time she is being used for her body. And it's just the grossest. There's an actual villain called the Sadist.
Yeah. There's and another one called the Masochist.
Right.
Those clever.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of Christmas carols I had to fucking listen to.
Oh my god, the fucking Indo-Main Christmas carols.
Right. So bad.
Listen, I'm an adult. I've heard bad words all my life, but I don't want to sit through an hour and a half of the heroine of a film being called a bitch, a whore, a slut, over and over and over again, as though these are weapons to hurt her, to demean her as a person. There's literally the longest scene in the movie is she's tied up and tortured, and the camera lingers like it's an erotic scene.
Right.
And it's no, this is, why are you doing it? It's not an empowering role.
Absolutely not. It's gratuitous in the most disgusting way.
Yeah.
And
I do feel like I will once again defend her performance. I think she gives her, I think if there's one thing that elevates the film, it's that it's her performance. And with a lesser actress, it would have been completely unwatchable. But I stuck it out. I did fast forward through some of the parts where I was just like, violence, 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 violence. But I stuck it out because I wanted to see her prevail. But she doesn't. No. She fucking dies in the end for no reason. She doesn't. There's like a thing right before the credits where you hear like the heart monitor and you hear her gasp. But like really, the last scene,
it was taking so long and like Silent Night's playing, bleh, and I was like, oh, she went through all that and still died.
And she's just not a character, and so there's no character arc, and so she's just punished.
Right, yeah, and I was like, wow, they really put her through all that. This is fucking disgusting. And then at the last second, and I was like, oh, does he feel good about that? Does he feel good like he like let her live in the one last second? Like, barf. I just want to touch down on like, so Salma Hayek is beautiful.
Yes.
A lot of her career has been made on her beauty.
Yeah.
And, like I said, she came from a well-to-do family in Mexico. It's hard to talk about her and not at least mention, you know, she has had to use her body.
Yeah.
And I think Hollywood has taken advantage of that also. I mean, maybe one of her most iconic scenes is from Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
When she's literally, wearing nothing and
she's a vampire stripper
dancing for Quentin Tarantino. Yeah. Super disgusting.
And, is she the one that he drinks the shot from her foot because he's into his weird foot fetish?
And did you know about this? So, I watched all of 4 Rooms and she's not in it really.
She's a dancer on TV.
She's a dancer on TV. And apparently she, they asked her, Robert Rodriguez asked her to be a dancer on TV, a stripper. And so she was. And Quentin Tarantino is also in that movie, saw that, and was like, I want you to dance in my movie, from Dusk Till Dawn. And that's the connection that was made there. I mean, she has worked with Robert and Quentin Tarantino like over and over again.
Yeah.
And she said that there was no choreography, there was nothing, like, they were like, here's a snake, here's a bathing suit, dance.
Oh my god.
And like we were saying, she's like not really good at improv. Like, I don't think the dance is really particularly sexy. And I was just watching it and I was like, do straight people think like this is hot? Like
there's a counterpoint to that scene that works really well. There's this movie she made in the early 2000s or mid 2011. Sorry, not even early 2000s. Called Americano. And it's with Matthew Demy, who is the son of Jacques Demy and Agnes Varda, which is like, if you're a film person, like, you know those names. Jacques Demy made a ton of really famous French films. Agnes Varda has made a ton of really famous French films. And she plays a exotic dancer named Lola. And her big scene in that movie is she comes out and she sings this song about how she's tired of America. But this is the only like one fantasy moment in the movie where like she stops singing in the middle of it, just continues to dance. And she doesn't fully strip. She's wearing pasties. But the song continues.
I'm going to a town that has already been burned down. I'm going to a place that has already been disgraced. I'm gonna see some folks who have already been let down. I'm so tired of America.
And I was like, damn, this is erotic. Yeah. I was like, and I loved every second of that, but it's funny to like, to see earlier in her career when she had a very similar scene. And
right. I mean, I think it's weird because there are some movies where I'm like, wow, she's really sexy. I think she's really sexy in like Juan de Micalo. She's literally just like washing her hair.
Yeah.
And she's wearing like a nightie and I was like, she looks hot and it's sexy. But when it like, but that's not for the male gaze or, you know, like it doesn't feel exploitive. As opposed to From Dusk Till Dawn, I'm just like, I am grossed out.
And maybe that's a huge difference between like a foreign filmmaker versus an American filmmaker is like we have a tendency to sexualize every part of a woman.
Right.
And so
I think it wasn't a rare treat when we found a movie that wasn't her just completely being sexualized.
Well, that's what I want to bring up a bunch of stuff to early career. As you mentioned, like she had to use her body. when we first started this, I got really nervous because I watched a bunch of movies where her character literally had no agency.
Right.
No story at all, other than she was there to support the men. And I want to call out movies like Fled, which is this really terrible...
Wait, I saw that. Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I did see that. That's really fucking bad.
Lawrence Fishburne, Stephen Baldwin vehicle.
Oh my god.
It's from 1996. And she plays, like, a Mexican immigrant who, like, her love story in the movie is that she, like, snuck across the border and fell in love with the fucking immigration agent who deported her.
And he, like, did such a service by marrying her, and then he, like, left her, though.
And he brought me to the States. First to California. And then we moved to Atlanta, Georgia.
And then what happened?
He left me. So, I was stuck here with no money, no friends, no family, and no job.
No familia, no dinero, no trabajo.
Nada.
Ay. So what'd you do?
I cried. I cried for a long time. But then I got my shit together.
That's Really Bad. Chain of Fools that she did in 2000, which was directed by, first of all, it was directed by 5 men named Tractor. That's their directing group. She plays a detective in that movie where she unfortunately has to be in love with Steve Zahn. And I like Steve Zahn. And
Steve Zahn, who comes back in her career later.
Yes, absolutely. And in that movie, she's literally not given a role other than, like, she's quote unquote a detective. You never see her do any detective work.
No.
She's just there to sleep with Steve Zahn.
Correct.
Tell me something, Tres.
What's that, dear?
How could I have fallen in love with a gunman?
Gunman?
Yeah. It was you and Barnsworth who stole those coins. You killed those cigars in cold blood.
And
I don't know, I'm in love with you. And I'm like, why?
The Desperado movies where she's literally just a prop for Antonio Banderas to commit acts of revenge. And like it just goes on and on. And it's sort of frustrating to watch. And I understand one of the worst bits of this is this Brett Ratner movie called After the Sunset.
Not seen that.
She did it in it's not even that early on in her career. That's what's crazy. It's 2004, and it's her and Pierce Brosnan as super thieves. And they've stolen something, and like Woody Harrelson was the FBI agent tracking them. And so now they live in the Caribbean, and Woody Harrelson has followed them there because there's a boat docked on the shore that has one of the world's most expensive diamonds in it, and he's like, they're gonna steal it, and I'm gonna catch them. And it's supposed to be this, like, charade-esque love romance between her and Pierce Brosnan, but literally all this, like, she's in a tank top for almost the entire movie. There's a part where she, like, goes to, like, fix a car or whatnot, and it's literally just her tits hanging out and bouncing. Right. I googled Salma Hayek GIF. This was the biggest GIF on, this was like the
first thing that showed up.
And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. Right. Yes, she has tits.
Yeah, right.
Like,
and Pierce Brosnan, I did watch her other Pierce Brosnan movie.
I did not like that movie either. There's one really funny scene where she describes a male orgasm though.
You should hear some of the stupid noises you guys make when you're...
You can't even say the word, can you? Come on. What do we sound like?
For example, you have the bear.
Uh-huh. I can see your tonsils.
Then you have the sports commentators.
Oh, yeah?
Baja la pelota. Recibe con el pecho. Mete mano en el área chica. Go!
What kind of men have you been with?
Then there's the quiet one. Oh!
You finished?
No.
Of course.
And then the worst one. The worst one is the Tourette's one.
What?
Shit, fuck, I love you. Fuck me, oh motherfucking bitch, I love you. Fuck me.
Hey, that sounds like you, Dad.
She has no chemistry with Pierce Brosnan.
Absolutely not.
Twice.
Someone was like, you know what? Let's do this again.
Yeah. Both times he was an executive producer on the movie, so...
Pierce, get over it. God.
I do enjoy, though, that in both films... No, actually, I don't enjoy it. This pisses me off. I do that in both films, he's allowed to be sort of schlubby. Like, he has a bit of a stomach and everything, which, like, I'm happy to be able to present, like, a real man, especially since people, like, look at him and they still think James Bond.
Right.
But honestly, she has to be toned and tight. And, like, she can't be anything that she really
anything
is.
but, like, super gorgeous.
Yeah.
I will say, I guess, kind of leading towards, like, maybe better things. Early on in her career, she made that movie, which I always get the name wrong, with Matthew Perry.
Fools Rush In.
Fools Rush In. And I was like, oh, an actual fool like character.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if... it's a good romantic comedy for its time. And it's not just her being like... There's a little bit of weirdness where it's like, ooh, crazy, like, Mexicans and white people together. Like,
oh my god, yeah.
Culture clash.
Her parents are, like, hot-headed.
Yeah. And like...
And his parents are super waspy.
Yeah. Like, culture clash, oh no, and what are they gonna do? Like, that's kind of, like, silly, but it's not just her, like, super sexualized and, like, you know, it didn't feel as gross as the other early movies where she's just, like, you know, body, yada, yada.
Alex, you have to be there every day.
What do you think I've been killing myself for?
Oh, come on. You knew about this for a month, but you don't include me. Why are you afraid of me? Why do you alienate me from your life?
I don't know.
Look, I told you in the beginning. I have no problem raising this child on my own.
I thought we were a family.
You don't understand the concept of a family. To you, it's something you put up with on national holidays. Love, it's a gift, Alex. Not an obligation.
There's some really rough things in there, but yeah, Fools Rush In is a movie that I think is actually kind of delightful.
Yeah, Matthew Perry at the top of his powers.
Yeah, exactly. At his could he be more Chandler?
Hello. They were like, we want you just to be Chandler.
Yeah, and he's like, I can do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess we should move into our 4-star reviews. I'm gonna let you go first because I did the 1-star review.
Great.
First.
There's just like nothing else to say but Frida.
Yeah.
Frida
it really isn't.
Is just a masterpiece of a movie, a Mexican Fantasia Wonderland where I was just swept, taken. Like, I could not believe that this movie exists, was made. I'm so happy and proud of Selma for, like, willing it into existence. I'm excited and happy that it feels so specifically Mexican.
It does, which is crazy because Julie Taymor, who directed it, and like it's also Julie Taymor's masterpiece.
Right.
But I'm so happy that it's a female filmmaker. But also, like, she's not Mexican.
Right.
But like, she made sure.
Yes, you're right. It definitely has like a Julie Taymor like feel. Like, she definitely has like an artistic vision. Sometimes it flops, sometimes it works. It works so well here, and I have to believe that it's because of Selma and all of the Mexican artists she surrounded herself with. This movie is about artists and artistry, and it is art. Selma, you know, I hate when people are like, I was born for this role. But this is the motherfucking tea. Like, Selma was born for this role. Like, she is so striking, and just like Frida was. Frida had this like crazy intense stare, and she was a striking woman, a sexual woman who owned her sexuality. This movie maybe has more nudity than like any other thing that I've seen Selma in, and yet it doesn't feel gross. It doesn't feel like she's being dehumanized. She owns her sexuality. She's able to just like fully embody this character, this woman who is like a force of nature. I was watching this movie and I was like, Michael Jackson who? Because Frida Kahlo was back in the day owning monkeys and like doing crazy shit, globetrotting, like living her own truth.
Wearing men's clothes in a time in which like you could basically be arrested for wearing men's clothes.
I don't want to like romanticize communism or anything, but I was just thinking like
I'd much rather watch her romanticize communism than watch her romanticize capitalism in September's of Shiraz.
Boom, burn, sick. But all I could think of was like, oh man.
No, they're coming to get us.
I know. They're like, communism! Get out of here.
It's just a red herring. It's a Clue reference, if you...
I don't know if you know this, but... I was just thinking, like, the movie's beautiful. We don't see movies this bright and colorful. I was just like, oh, actual, like, deep colors, like, that are bright and just, like, you know, in your face. The music, oh my god.
For those who don't know, and this is like a public knowledge, so this is not like a spoiler, in very early on in her life, Frida Kahlo was involved in a bus accident.
It was a trolley.
Trolley, yeah. and her body was pierced by a pole,
right?
Which left Frida Kahlo feeling a little less than like a person, because it pierced through her vagina as well, and so it took some of the pleasure out of sex. And I don't remember, I have not rewatched the film, I don't remember if it really goes into that aspect. I think I read about that in books, but I've heard Salma Hayek talk about that specifically, and how when they did the scene, they wanted it to look like, because it was such a defining moment for Frida Kahlo, because it sort of took something away from her.
Right.
They wanted that scene to look like a Frida Kahlo painting. And really, at the end of that scene, right before the brilliant, it is the Brothers Quay, claymation sequence, she's lying on the ground and this pole is through her and it looks incredibly painful. But there's all these gold flecks of paint falling down on her. And it's also this really gorgeously composed, like it looks like a painting.
Right. The movie does that really well.
It does it really, really well. And but I like that she was, so focused on, Frida's internal life in a way that I feel like a lot of actors don't. Like, I understand a lot of actors take roles because they know, like, you know, I can get really deep into this and this might get me an award, but that's not really important. But like, really, I don't think there was anything behind Salma Hayek's want to do this role other than she really wanted to explore the internal life of this person who had such an extreme outward life.
Right.
So for her to dig in so deep and want to take what she felt was going on inside Frida Kahlo and have it affect the world outside of her, it's wonderful. It really is.
I think I enjoy her in roles that are specifically and like emphatically like Latin.
Yes.
When I saw her in El Callejón de Milagros, I was like, oh wow, like she's very herself, very comfortable. Yeah. In Frida, you know, Frida's in English, but still it felt like so comfortable for her to slip into this character, this person. That movie's gorgeous though. I mean, the scenes where like they literally are the painted, you know, there's like the paintings that come to life.
Yeah.
And I was just like blown away. It's heartbreaking, but also, I mean, goddamn, when she comes to her Mexican like exhibit in her bed, I was like, yes, queen, work. Like
Frida.
I've waited for a show in my own country my whole life. I'm not going to miss it.
If the bronchitis gets worse, it will turn into pneumonia. Frida, under no circumstances are you to leave this bed.
I don't believe that ever before has a woman put such agonized poetry on canvas.
Shut up, Anson. Who died? Where is the music? See, Doctorcito, I followed your orders. I didn't leave my bed.
The movie made buttloads of money, so good on them. Got buttloads of like Oscar nominations. The Oscars they did win, I believe, were like costume and like set design or something, and which just like to me was like it felt so good because that movie looks Mexican, it feels Mexican, and she just did a great job. And like a little bit of like what am I trying to say? Like backstory. She like really fought for this movie to be made. Jennifer Lopez was attached to star in this for a while.
I still remember that. This movie is 15 years old. It does not feel dated in any
Absolutely
way.
not.
Like,
and it's weird though because I was watching it. I watched it last night, and I was like, "This movie." It feels like they don't make movies like this. Like haven't seen a movie that looks like this. They're like literally on Mexican like ruins, like filming up there with Jeffrey Rush, and you know, and like I was just like, "Whoa, this." It looks expensive.
Yeah. And it wasn't made for a ton.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It looks really expensive. It has style. It's not just like, I imagine in another person's, like camera, it would just kind of be a very straightforward narrative. This is like when they go to New York, you can like feel the art of that.
It looks like, you know, Diego's murals.
Right.
New York does.
Right, exactly.
It's really brilliant.
Yeah. And
Diego Rivera. Sorry. I just realized I'm such good friends with Diego Rivera, even though he's dead.
Also, a quick aside, the smallest little Diego Luna comes out in this movie, and I'm like, he is so cute. He's in there for like 10 minutes, but I was like, yes.
And you were like, in a couple of years, I'm going to watch you kiss that boy and eat your mama Tamiya.
Exactly. I was just like, yes, you fun young Mexican actors. Work. I could go on and on, but this movie by far is her masterpiece, signature movie. Well, what do you got, Gavin?
Well, like I said when we did Miyazaki, I think there's a clearly acknowledged masterpiece here, and that's Frida. So I won't talk about that more because I think you handled it beautifully. As beautiful
Thanks.
as the film, Louie.
Oh, thank you so much.
So highly recommend Frida. Go out, watch Frida. So if I had to pick a second one, one of the things I like about doing this podcast, it's giving me a chance to watch a lot of movies I may have missed over time. And I'm hoping, like, the people that listen to this, maybe it'll give them a chance to see some movies. So maybe sometimes some of my picks will be a little out of left field. Mm-hmm. And so, but we brought it up a bunch of times. You mentioned the Spanish name a bunch of times, but Midak Ali. It's one of her earliest films, as we mentioned, it's from 1995. It's a film. It's done structurally in a almost similar way to something like Amores Perros. It's separated into 4 parts. The first 3 parts are the same story told from different perspectives. They're not all given equal time, which is sort of interesting. The first part is about this
Rutilio.
Yeah, exactly.
I love his name so much.
It's so good. And he is an older man who's become dissatisfied with his wife, and he's gained the attention of a younger gay man that he totally wants to bang and continues to do so. And his son finds out, and chaos ensues from there. And
his son Chava. I'm sorry, I'm like so obsessed with like these very specific, crazy Mexican names.
Yeah, I'll get back to by the way, so the second story is Alma, which is her character, and she is the young beauty of the neighborhood, which is funny because the very first time she's brought up, it's
Chava Ordilio.
Yeah, who says she's not very good looking.
Right.
And then the next time you see him, he's like, oh, she's very good looking.
I'm like, you gay.
Yeah, exactly. She falls in love with a young man who is the best friend of Chava.
Right.
She decides to sort of play hard to get, and then for reasons that happen in the film, he has to run away to America with Chava, and she gets engaged to a rich jeweler. Doesn't work out the way, but he's like a much older man.
Right.
By the way, there's a current in this film in which older people sleep with younger people a lot.
There is.
At the same time, she sort of falls under the gaze of this very rich younger man, who, like, finally, when she accepts that she doesn't think her lover's coming back from America, she runs off with this younger rich man and disappears. And you find out he runs, he's essentially a pimp.
Yeah, he runs a brothel.
And like, it's supposed to be like a higher class brothel, but you know how all brothels go. But her segment is like 40 to 45 minutes.
Right.
It's a vast majority of this film because it's a 2-hour, 20-minute movie. It's not short. The third story is about the landlord of the house that Rutilio lives in.
Yeah, I can't remember
her name either. But it's great.
So good.
It's this great little comedy segment in this very dramatic film. It's like maybe 20 minutes is the shortest segment of them all.
Is it like Sofita or like something?
Something like that.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because they spend the first, hour and a half of the movie like savaging her. Every time she's brought up, she's like, oh, she's that rich bitch.
Yeah.
And like,
who has bad teeth.
She has bad teeth, exactly. And she's just this sweet old woman who, not even old. She's like this sweet, like middle-aged woman who happens to have money.
And she wants to like find love.
Exactly. And she's lonely. And then finally the fourth part's called The Return, and it's sort of everything that happens afterwards. I know I chided Selma for very early on in her career only playing, sex workers and whatnot, but this is the one exception because it really feels like it's a complete story. You see her beforehand, and this is not to take away from sex workers. There's many successful people who, not negative on sex worker, but like this is a bad situation. She gets like, this man beats her, and like that scene where he beats her is like, I literally was like, is this man actually hitting her?
Right.
Like, she's so good in that scene.
Yeah. And he's like genuinely terrifying.
Yeah, he is, which is funny because when he's first introduced, it's like, oh, hello.
Yeah. Which I think is like a good way like to show like how these things could happen.
Absolutely. And and I just really like her performance, and like I said, you know, she's in all of the parts because you're seeing the same story over and over and over again, and you get to see her from these different angles. Her mother is a tarot card reader, and and like she has this relationship with her mother that I really thought was really fleshed out, and I really liked. And there's these very innocent conversations about sex early in the early parts of her story.
Yeah,
I love when she's first falling in love with her boyfriend who runs away to America. I wish I could remember his name.
Yeah, he had a good name too. The mom had a good. They all have really good names.
Absolutely, and she's asking him about sex if he's ever had sex with a woman, and it's this cute, adorable sort of, which eventually leads to some like maybe unpleasant stuff later. But it's nice. It was refreshing to have like sex talked about in like an innocent way,
right?
And not like it wasn't like an American sex comedy because they're teenagers.
Mira, tú y yo apenas nos estamos conociendo.
Yo te conozco de toda la vida.
¿Esa canción es raza?
I do really recommend going out to see Midak Ali. As I was saying earlier, just to bring up the interesting thing about the names. So Midak Ali is based on an Egyptian novel from the 1930s. And it's interesting to see this this Egyptian novel about this very specific time period,
right.
Especially set amongst Muslim and like
right, yeah.
And those values moved over to contemporary Mexico in the 1990s,
right?
And it's I don't know, like it's very strange that they were able to pull it off so well, and it doesn't feel different than the novel's from the 60s, but it's set in the 30s, and but yeah, it won if I can find this one.
Ariel. Oh, you're talking about what the book won.
Yeah, what the book won. But it's funny that like that's the reason why the movie has so many different titles. It's because
it has at least 3 different titles.
Yeah, it's because the Egyptian title, what it's based on is is a place in Egypt.
Yeah, Midak Ali, and then the Alley of Miracles.
Yeah,
and then El Callejón de Milagros.
Yeah, which is also a great name, by the way.
and you can find this movie on Netflix right now.
Oh, can you really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I had to search around for it, so I'm glad it exists on
it. It was the first thing that I watched in our
Nobel Prize. It won the Nobel Prize in Literature. That's what I've been going for. Yeah. Not the Pulitzer.
Shitty little prize called the Nobel Peace Prize.
The Nobel Prize, whatever.
Yeah, that movie is really excellent. Also, it was literally made by like the University of Guadalajara or something.
Yeah.
Like, it is...
And like, the look of the movie is really good. Like, it doesn't look bad. Like, the lighting in the film and, like...
You can tell that they probably had some, like, limitations as far as, like, effects go. Like, there is a scene where, there's an attack on the gay lover, and I was like... That's how they did that.
There's definitely also some really bad fight. Like
there's some lo-fi stuff where when it comes to like fighting or blood or stuff like that, where you're like, okay, they used what they had, but everything else, it's funny, it's sweet. It's very also like teetering on the edge of telenovela.
Yes,
my friend told me that Rutilio's wife in this movie, she actually was a very, very famous telenovela star.
Really? I loved her.
And so, like, there's a scene where she, like, confronts him about, cheating on her with a man. And he, like, starts, like, chasing her around the house. And she's like, and she's, like, giving full-on, like, telenovela realness. Like, por favor,
I also have to say, like, I read the description of the novel, and it sounds like everybody in the novel is written to sort of be kind of bad. Like, like her character description is like, she chases her husband around with a shoe. And like, I was like, what? Yeah. And I was like, that's weird. So I'm glad like the movie chose to soften the edges of the characters and make them more well-rounded.
It's a really good movie. It's fun, but like, there's like, it's drama, it's comedy, it's everything. Like, movie.
And it's got like, and I love that structure. I love, when my final student film in college was structured in a very similar way, so I'm actually happy I saw this so much later, so I wasn't like copying. But
you're like, I'm a genius.
I'm a genius, exactly. Well, I mean, as long as you're saying it.
Right. It's all matters.
I do want to, before we move on into our fast forward, I do want to give a shout out. One of the things that she's really good at in general too is comedy. But like we both watched Banditas.
We did.
Banditas is a piece of crap. It's not a good
ridiculous
movie. But it is so good to see her in that movie having a lot of fun. It's her and Penelope Cruz, and it's funny because she plays a Spaniard. Her father just returned from Spain. Penelope Cruz plays a Mexican.
Right.
Which is reverse of reality.
Correct.
This is also... They both fall in love with Steve Zahn for some reason.
And they both like have to make out with him. I was like,
oh, there is a really terrible scene where he like yells at them about the Mexican Revolution. Right. And I was just like, go fuck yourself.
I was like, Steve, stop.
We don't need the white man to tell the two Latino women that.
Wasn't the movie directed by a French person?
Yeah. Oh, well, it was written by Luc Besson, who did like
Fifth Element, right?
Fifth Element and Leon the Professional and whatnot.
Right.
And it's a very much a Luc Besson film, like where his empowered women are also like giggly and fun.
Right.
But I thoroughly enjoyed watching that piece of crap.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, you can tell that those two women are such good friends.
Yes.
And I was like, they're having the time of their life.
Yes, and I would like to see her do more of that. And then the other movie I wanted to mention, which is another not great movie, but she's really great in it, is this movie called, I've just lost it. Lonely Hearts from 2006. She plays Martha Beck, the killer.
Great.
It's a period noir piece, and it's like James Gandolfini and John Travolta and Alice Krieg, who I love. Oh, and Laura Dern, and unfortunately Jared Leto, who plays her partner in Murdering, but she elevates his performance.
Wow.
Like she's so good and so like stone cold, and you like, I don't know, she's really good and like gorgeous in like a very stylized 1930s, because they're not going for realistic 1930s.
Gotcha.
They're going for like, you know, post Art Deco, like, you know, she's immaculate in the film and just
love it.
Gorgeous, but also like, you know, killing people as they're fucking Jared Leto, like, and then making him promise to love her forever. And like,
I love that. That's how I want to go out. I guess going into our fast forward, also want to mention she has a new movie out right now.
She does have a new movie out, and that's what I was hoping to cover in her fast
forward. So she's currently out in Beatriz at Dinner, which a part of me is like, oh, this is like, you know, a comeback, but she's been working steadily for a long time. But this is kind of feels like a return to more serious things, and it's so I watched it last week. You watched it yesterday, right?
Yes.
I really enjoyed it.
It's good. It's very good. Yeah.
You know, I think it like maybe has some trouble at the end figuring out what it wants to be or like do.
If I have a problem with the film, it's the end. It's written by Mike White, who's the last thing he did was Enlightenment, which is a really amazing. Good. Oh my god, some of the best TV you'll ever watch. Enlightened, that's what it is. Yeah.
With Laura Dern.
With Laura Dern, exactly. And some of the best TV you'll watch if you've not seen Enlightened. Go back. It's only 2 seasons. It does not have a satisfying ending, but you'll live.
So good.
And I feel like this film is sort of a reaction to the stuff that he didn't get to do in Enlightened. Right. And
there's a lot of environmental stuff happening in this movie. I think a lot of people have said, you know, oh, this is like the first great movie of the Trump era. This movie was like written before Trump happened. Like, it was kind of.
But I feel like you could see that coming. That wave.
It's very like kind of fish out of water. Also, she's not wearing like an ounce of makeup in this movie. She's wearing like sensible khakis and a blouse.
And on top of the like not an ounce of makeup, like one of the things I loved and appreciated, she's in close up a lot.
Yeah.
And actually a lot of her lines, specifically the more condemning lines of the people, I guess we should explain the plot, but they're delivered directly to camera, which is a very old technique So like it'll be her and then the reverse shot of the other person and they'll be looking above the camera. So what it does when you have an actor look directly into the camera, it does two things to the audience. It unnerves them.
Right.
Because they're staring directly at you. And it's also a way of addressing the audience directly.
Right.
And there's a lot of filmmakers who use that really well. Jonathan Demme as one of them, R.I.P. But like, I really love that choice was given for her, seeing her, because she's gorgeous too. Right. Not an ounce of makeup, like not wearing anything low cut, beautiful, luminous. But staring, angry bangs, just staring directly into the camera, into the audience, and it worked. Yeah. It was such a good choice.
Yeah, so the movie is, she plays Beatriz, who is a holistic healer who helps cancer patients and stuff like that. She is also a masseuse, and she goes to Connie Britton's house.
Yes.
Love Connie Britton. And she's a rich white woman who has hired her to, give her a massage before a big dinner party. She's also a friend of the family because she helped her daughter through some cancer treatment. Her car breaks down at this big mansion. And so Connie Britton's character says, why don't you just stay? It's only a couple people coming over. It's not a big deal. And it turns out everyone that shows up is white and awful.
Yeah.
And
one is a very rich land developer,
right,
which is played by
Jonathan Lithgow.
Jonathan Lithgow.
Is that his name? Jonathan Lithgow?
Yeah, John Lithgow.
Okay,
Yeah.
John Lithgow.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's playing like he is giving the scrumptious Jonathan Lithgow realness.
Yeah.
And
he first mistakes her for a servant.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. And as the night progresses and she drinks more and more, she becomes more emboldened. And as it's revealed how awful these fucking people are.
Where are you from?
Altadena.
Where are you really from?
I was born in Tlaltecutli, Mexico.
Tlaltecutli.
Tlaltecutli. On the Pacific. It was very beautiful once.
Mexico's awesome. I love Cancun.
But now, many hotels, timeshare. A lot of crime, I think. And where are you from?
Laguna. But we have houses in... well, we're all over.
But where are you really from?
I was born in Oaxaca. No, I was born in San Diego.
She's not afraid to stand up and be like, hey,
yeah,
fuck you a lot.
Yeah, yes.
And, and the tension. I mean, in that movie, she's a short woman. She's like 5'2".
Oh my God, there's one shot too where she's walking with the other women.
Everyone is towering over her.
And that's the thing, like, it's not even just a race thing, it's a sex thing as well. Like, the women immediately go with the other women and whatnot. But there's this shot where they're walking near a pool, and literally it's like, the next to shortest person is Connie Britton, who's like, gotta be at least 6 foot in heels.
Yeah.
So it's like, Salma Hayek, who's like, what, 5'4"?
Uh-huh.
Like, 5'4", Connie Britton, Chloe Sevigny, who's like, bleh,
a monster.
And like the other actress who I cannot think of the name of, who's really fantastic.
Oh, yeah, from Transparent.
Yeah. And she's also, and I was like, Jesus Christ, these women are like basketball players.
I mean, it's like, even when they don't say things, they'll walk around the house and just leave her behind. And she kind of like is following them around, and like, she's having to ask the like, John Early is like the, I don't know, houseboy.
Yes.
And she's just like having to be like, can I have some wine? And he's like, he gives her like, he does like a really good like, oh honey. Like,
exactly.
just like at that look.
There's another scene, and I won't get into it because I think you should go out to the theaters and see this movie. It's out now. I think it just spread wide, or is spreading wide this week. That sounds dirty.
I was like,
spread them.
Words, choices.
But there's a line she delivers at a very heightened point in the movie where she says, all tears flow from the same source. And it's great. And it would have been so much better if the white couple behind me hadn't been like, what did she say? The theater man. But yeah, but also, going forward, what do you want to see? What do you think? Because I have a litany of things I would like her not to do.
Right. I never want her to see her work with Adam Sandler again.
Yeah. So that was one of the great things about being a podcast and being able to set our own rules. I literally have a list of her movies. And the first thing I did was cross out any film in which she stars with Adam Sandler. I was like, not gonna see it. Grown Ups 1, Grown Ups 2, not interested. Sausage Party, nope.
Oh my God. I saw that like a while ago, not on purpose, and I was just like, this is the worst. Like Seth Rogen just could do whatever he wants.
Yeah, so Hollywood will let Seth Rogen do whatever he wants.
Awful. I do not want her to do that anymore. I want her to, like, and again, so in this role, she is playing a Mexican woman, and, like, it is not, like, in service to, you know, I mean, yeah, she plays a service role, but, like, it is not in service to other people and what they want, and, like, for the movie. And she's so much better at doing those type of things. I think, what an incredible gift that Mike White was able to, like, write her this role. She talks about, for her birthday, they gave her the script.
And, directed by, Michael, Areta. Yeah. And this is the third Mike White movie that he's done, cause he also did Chuck and Buck and The Good Girl, and I love both those movies as well.
Right. So I would just love for her, it's funny, she's 50 years old. Like, and there are a lot of, actresses who are now, like, in her age range who are working a lot.
But also, wasn't it refreshing to see her as a 50-year-old? She's not playing a mother. She's not playing
a mom who's, like, trying to keep it sexy, not trying to, like, you know,
which I'm sure is exactly what she's doing in Grown Ups.
Right.
But whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So I would love for her to maybe, like, take a step back and be like, I don't have to make every movie that comes my way. I think for a long while she was like, I need to make everything so I can just, like, support myself and make sure I'm sound financially. I think now I want her to lean back into being more picky and kind of, like, maybe doing the Reese thing and producing her own stuff and being like, you know what? I read this book. I love it. I'm buying the rights. And then I'm going to, like, cause in Frida, she, like, really put her heart and soul into it. And, like, the result was just, like, amazing.
And it paid off. Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't know if, like, there's another Frida left in her, but I would love for her to, like, nurture something that she really loves. Kind of like The Prophet, which is, like, an animated movie. You know, I could tell
she put a lot of herself into that as well. Yeah.
I mean, and it's a gorgeous movie. And so I that's what I want. I want her to be, just having more fun, you know?
Yeah.
I don't want movies where she's being exploited.
Yes. Well, that's I have a list of 3 very specific things I would like, from her. No movies where she plays a sex worker or a stripper anymore.
Great.
And not because I have anything negative about them, but she's done it and she doesn't have to anymore.
Right.
And she's still gorgeous. So I'm not saying that that's the reason why. She, like, if she wanted to, she could play a stripper or a sex worker right now. Like, that's fine.
And everyone would be like, yes.
But she don't need to. No more movies where her name is Lola. I saw 3 movies where her name was Lola. I was so annoyed. Americano, After the Sunset, and Living It Up. Which is funny because that's a French film, an American film, and a Spanish film. The one film she made in Spain. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like, none of you can think of, like, a quote-unquote more exotic name than Lola.
Yeah.
And then I thought it was really funny when I saw...
accessible.
Exactly. I saw Beatriz at dinner, and one of her goats' name's Lola. And I was so happy about that, because I was just like, yes.
The goats Lola.
Drag them. And I don't want her to star with Pierce Brosnan anymore. And she's played Pierce Brosnan's love interest twice, and I think I'm of the opinion Salma Hayek can do anything but have chemistry with him, and I really want to blame him. And I like Pierce Brosnan. I'm a big James Bond stan, but, like, just stop with the Pierce.
Stop with the Pierce. Cut to the feeling.
But you know, if I had to name things, yes, I want her to do more dramatic stuff. I want her to do more, like, adult comedy, not grown-ups. She is very funny. She has a great comic timing. And I want her to sing more. And, like, she sings in a lot of these films, and actually, weirdly enough, except for Beatriz at Dinner, most of the films are like, she's terrible at it, and then she sings something and she's amazing. Yeah. Beatriz at Dinner, they're like, we're not even going to pretend. She's great.
Yeah.
So those are sort of the things I want from her career. She's really fantastic. And I hope she pours more of her producerial sort of guidance into it and not...
I mean, because I really hope that there's more to come from her. You know, I don't want her to just, like, kind of, like, go away.
Yeah.
I really hope she, like, you know, like these, Helen Mirren, why am I blanking on her name? Meryl Streep, like, these older actresses who are able to, like, kind of keep going and doing interesting things. I just don't think Hollywood maybe knows what to do with, like, an older, like, Latina woman.
Well, that's what I'm scared of, too. And I'm scared of, like, Hollywood still treats her as though she's, like, this exotic bird.
Right.
And, like, they don't know what to do with this, like, this person, and so they just keep casting her in some of the roles. I've totally forgot to mention, I blanked on this earlier. There was this other great 90s queer movie I saw called Velocity of Gary. I don't know if you ended up watching
I did watch it. I can't.
It's not great, but it's really good, and it's like a 90s queer film that I had not seen before, which is ridiculous.
It's the most bizarre fucking movie
It's really
I've ever
bizarre.
seen. I don't know if I'd call it very good.
I really like things in it. I will admit there's an unfortunate too much reliance on her being like a hot-tempered Latina, like don't do that so much. But at the same time, she I don't know, any movie that begins like when the first couple scenes has a lip sync to a Patsy Cline song by a deaf drag queen.
Right.
I'm down for that. Oh my god, she does a Diana Ross lip sync in blackface. And that was, no thank you.
Because I guess that was a joke. Like, she was like, oh, people say I look like Diana Ross.
Yeah.
And they're like, ha ha ha. And like cut to like a scene later and she's like in the streets, I guess, I'm assuming at a pride parade.
Yes. It's the new NYC Halloween parade. Which also, like, one of those things that you need to go to before you die, by the way, Louis. So,
NYC,
yeah.
Okay.
I've been there many times, so I probably will not go again because it's very
Diana
crowded.
Ross, full drag.
Oh yeah, I mean,
totally.
That's what I wear all the time.
Great.
Did you not notice?
Hello. That's a day look.
I'm glad it really really captured it. Like it did a really good job at like giving you a sense of what it's like to be there. The good portion of it.
Right.
It's also very crowded, as I said.
That movie did feel very like 90s New York.
Yes.
From what I have heard. I mean, but like, it's a very bizarre movie. Vincent D'Onofrio wearing like some crazy hair.
Yeah. Vincent D'Onofrio is a bisexual porn star.
Right.
Who is dating both Salma Hayek and Thomas Jane.
They have like one of the longest gay kisses in like cinema history.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Work.
And, I don't know. I enjoyed that movie.
If you're into weird, like, you know, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's very weird. And if you're into that stuff.
I mean, it's also because it's a 90s queer movie, like, one of them gets AIDS. And, like, yeah. But,
like, there is, there was a little bit too much for me, like, smacking down on the drag queens.
Yes.
Like, I was like,
well, it also begins with a gay bashing, and that's rough. That's not.
I was like, what's happening in this movie already?
Well, I also kind of hate, like, it's based off a play that's called The Velocity of Gary, and Thomas Jane is the character of Gary, which it's not even his real name. But, like, he's not very good in it.
Right.
And the character's terrible as well.
Ethan Hawke's in the movie.
Oh, yeah, Ethan Hawke, who's, like, Vincent D'Onofrio's bestie. So, but yeah, she's very good at it. Sorry, but I wouldn't mind seeing her in another queer film, another queer-themed film.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in Frida, she's making out with all the ladies.
Well, she is in Time Code 2, and you see how that went out.
You know what? She's not afraid.
Yeah,
she's not afraid. We love Salma because she's not afraid. Where can people find us online, Gavin?
Oh, excellent. So yes, in the closing of our show, you can find us many places, including Twitter at The Mixed Reviews. You can find us on Facebook by just putting The Mixed Reviews. Yeah. You can contact us through Gmail at reviewsmixed@gmail.com. And you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher. There's a bunch of stuff on Google Play Music. We're also on SoundCloud, but it's not all of our episodes, unfortunately. Someday we'll do that, but I'm not willing to pay for it.
But not right now.
And please do contact us if you have any questions.
Selma has such a big body of work. If you have a favorite one, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be putting up a poll on Twitter.
Right. Please go vote.
Yeah, please go vote. And also, if you subscribe to us on Stitcher or iTunes, I'm not sure you can do this on Google Play Music, but please rate and review us because that lets other people find us. Mm-hmm. And we love other people. Not just you.
Especially me, because I'm a slut. I'm a slut for reviews.
I didn't want to say it, but I did think it's weird that you showed up with a red A today. Yes. It's weird that you have to wear that.
Hi. Court mandated. Thank you.
But that's our show for this week, and we're going to go deliberate real quick on who we're going to do for the next 2 weeks.
Bye, guys. Thanks for listening.
See ya.
Una historia sin tiempo que no tiene fin. Un amor como el nuestro ni hoy ni nunca podrá morir. Quiero ser en tu alma un momento feliz. Te amaré por siempre, viviré dentro de ti. En los días de dolor, siente mi amor, que vendrá con el viento, que vendrá con el sol. En los ojos de Dios, perderás en sueños, sentirás mis besos, me oirás reír.